My name is Priya, and I'm the marketing manager here at Vitex. So today we are talking about a CableTec show. So the show was at Philadelphia about 2 weeks ago, and Vitex had a booth there. As many of you know, CableTec is one of the largest events for the cable industry folks. So today's webinar will be about 20 minutes or so, followed by a Q&A session. You can type in your questions in the Q&A box or in the chat box. We are recording this webinar and it'll be available on our website in a few days. We'll also be sending out an email with the link to the recording to all the attendees. We have today Craig Polk, who is the product development manager here at Vitex. Craig has over 20 years experience at Bell Labs and Nokia, and he led innovation across several industry sectors, including healthcare, education, and environmental science. Craig holds a BE in electrical engineering from Stevens Institute of Technology, an MS from Purdue University, and an MBA from William Patterson University. So hi, Craig, and welcome.
Hi, Priya. Thanks for having me.
So this year's CableTec was an in-person event after being completely virtual over the last 2 years. You were at the show for a few days. So what was your impression of the show?
Yeah, it was really good to get back out to a show. This is the first one I've been to for a number of years. There were several mentions of the hybrid platform, so I know people were attending in person and virtually. From what I remember from the pre-pandemic days, I think the show was a little lighter in attendance, but it seemed the general consensus were that we're still in a in-person expanding situation after still coming out of the pandemic. So the view and outlook was kind of a lot of people were also there for the first time that haven't been in a while, and they're looking forward to more in-person events.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I know there were many interesting technological trends that maybe you saw at the show. What was your top takeaway from CableTec this year?
Excuse me. Well, I think the first one had to be related to the to fiber to everywhere. So that was a theme seen in many of the booths and many of the workshops. The discussion and a little bit of history on how we moved from bringing fiber to the nodes, to the buildings, and to the home over the last, I want to say 1 or 2 decades, and where things were going now. A lot of discussion was on radio heads, towers, antennas, and how fiber has expanded in that area in more recent years. And we see more companies moving towards things like Wi-Fi and 5G to be able to provide connectivity to more of their customers. And when we looked at the fiber architecture, so we really just still fall into 2 main categories, the AON and the PON networks, where these are kind of distributed and bring this capability to everywhere, right? And a lot of the conversation that I was in was around the WDM technology, specifically used in the PON, like CWDM or DWDM, that allows more bandwidth through reuse of existing fiber.
Thanks, Greg. And when you say fiber to everywhere, was there one everywhere that people were talking about?
Yeah, there really was. A lot of the discussion because some of the bigger players at the show were more traditional or historically traditional cable providers or broadcast providers. So a lot of their focus was on bringing fiber to the home originally, right? Bringing like triple play services and things like that. So there's been a lot of discussion, or there was several discussion about where we are now with 1G and how, a lot of homes have smart TVs and laptops and devices, but we're seeing more devices that are coming in for like, integrated coffee pots, other appliances in the house that are using backhaul connectivity. We're seeing, things that didn't really communicate before on the internet, like more of our children's toys and devices to help us with time management and our thermostats and lighting, and even areas like plumbing and how we help our kids and our small furry kids, like for those, like I have a couple dogs, and there was some discussion of where we're going to go in the future with that. And so there's a constant trend how the number of devices per household is increasing over the years. And, all the projections show that this is going to just continue to increase. So the 1 gig is really not going to cut it anymore. So this is why a lot of the conversation was around, what do we do to bring 10 gig to a home environment?
Yeah, I recall seeing a lot of talk there about 10 gig. Was there any other overarching themes that you saw, like when you walked around the booths or attended sessions?
For me, one thing that kind of resonated was the push to be a greener technology, right? Either if it's through an RF or fiber optics solution, no matter where you're going, there was a constant theme about how trying to do more towards energy conservation and how you can impact climate change. It's really continuing to move away from this kind of like buzzwords, right? So there's a lot of talk about sustainability and why green is good, right? So there's the whole point about it's good for the environment, it's good from a social perspective, but green also helps us save some green. So when we look at a lot of these product developments, we see that things like energy consumption, specifically towards cooling and maintenance costs, can actually be drastically reduced when we move to green products. So there's definitely a lot of push in the fiber industry to really focus and help resolve the problem around climate change.
That's great. I like how they are not just buzzwords anymore and everyone's doing their part. Uh, any other things that stood out for you at CableTech? Any other themes or topics that you saw?
Yeah, besides, looking at the sustainability aspect, the main thing is connectivity, right? So everyone needs to be connected, and what handles all that connection, right? The backbone of everything is still fiber optics. Fiber optics is a big player in this area. So there were demos and workshops that talked about, what's the quality of the products that are going into the field and going into the network, right? What are some of the considerations on bundling cables in like outdoor applications? Talk about, the data transmission, environmental concerns with like water intrusion, temperature ratings, fire ratings, also custom built fit and specifications, because not all environments are the same, right? When we talked about how fiber needs to really go everywhere, it means that it needs to handle environments that are going to be everywhere. So how the quality of the product and the different aspects of that are was definitely a big buzz, and it was something that a lot of people were interested in to understand the major components and quality markers for fiber cable and what suits one application better than another.
So as long as we are talking about fiber optics, is there anything else related to fiber optics that made an impression?
Yeah, one of the things I saw, and I wish I took some pictures of it, they had like trucks, right? So there were like several trucks in the show to kind of showcase what's really needed for these installers, right? Because now that we have a good product, we understand the quality, we know where we need to install it. Now there's the whole logistical part of getting it from A to B, right? Connecting all these different points together. And so somebody's got to do this work. This is a huge, important task that needs to be done, and installers are at the heart of this, right? So there was a really strong focus on the equipment that can make the installations run smoother, give less quality defects. And when I talk about quality, I'm not really mean like production quality or manufacturing quality. There's still a high rate of issues and returns on products because of installation issues, right? And some of these are really not at the I guess root cause of who's doing it, but it's what they have to be able to complete these tasks. So looking at different things like what kind of splicing equipment is available, new trends in testing, especially as we're moving up higher rates, and we see, for example, things from the home going from 1 gig to 10 gig. It involves different type of test equipment, and we move more back into the core where we see the progression from hundreds into the 400s, and then in the future into the 800. So there's going to be a different amount of test equipment that's going to come out, and there's going to be a need for a little more skill set adapting to these higher rates and these different applications that these can be used in. So there was definitely a strong presence around testing equipment and the importance of testing and the importance of process when it comes to installation, and how everyone in the industry can kind of work together to make that installation a more critical part of the overall ecosystem improvement.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Do you have anything else to share? Okay.
Well, I do have, before we get to the questions, I do have my number one top takeaway was my lunch. I got to have an awesome Philly cheesesteak sandwich, which I haven't had in a couple of years. I haven't had a chance to visit Philadelphia. So so I wanted to make sure everybody knew that.
That's good. So I was also very happy to be at CableTec this year because like the last couple of years were completely virtual. And I know this year they have it's a hybrid show, but it is still, I think it makes, there's definite value in having face-to-face meetings and actually meeting, prospects and customers. So like at Vitex, we had a booth. It was, we had good traffic, and it was a good show for us as well.
Yeah. So what do you, from more of like a sales and marketing perspective, what do you think, the future is going to be for this virtual and hybrid type format?
Yeah. So the virtual element, I mean, most shows now do have a virtual element, and I mean, there's nothing that beats the convenience of logging into these sessions from the comfort of your couch, right? So also, I think that way trade shows can expand so they can reach a wider audience. But like I said, I was at OFC earlier this year, and I'd see like the crowds almost back. I wouldn't say they're back to pre-pandemic levels, but still you see a lot of people. So, but I think there'll be virtual elements to the trade shows going forward. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so too. It'll be interesting to see how that continues in the future. I do see, moving into our Q&A, we got a question from Robert. So Robert, this past Cable-Tec show was at Philadelphia. So it was at the Philadelphia Convention Center. And then let's see if we get any more Q&As either in the Q&A box or in the chat box.
Right. I have a fun one here. So Craig, what was the best giveaway at the show?
That's a good story. It makes me think of a good story. So I was lucky enough to be next to a company that's been doing cable tech. I think they said since it started, so maybe like for 25, 30 years. And towards the end of the show, they asked me, they said, "Oh, what are you bringing your kids?" And it just like, I was like, "I'm not bringing my kids anything. I'm going home." And I just got kind of like head shakes from the booth next. So I had to go around and quickly, revisit tables that I went to, but I was able to, pick up some pretty fun stuff. I think my favorite was there was a lot of lightsabers out there walking around, and one of my kids is a big Star Wars fan, so was able to bring that because he just broke his like 3 weeks ago. So I was like, "Oh, look, I got your replacement." And there was a couple other fun stuff. That's I guess one of the advantages of being in person. You get to pick up some of these stuffed animals and wireless chargers and things like that.
Yeah, that's always cool. If you have any questions, just type them in the Q&A box or the chat box. Craig, I see a question about Wi-Fi and 5G. So who's adding more Wi-Fi and 5G connections?
Yeah, so typically you would think that this is a big space that telecom providers are in, but we're actually seeing that's been going on the last kind of few years, and the trends continuing is that companies that are more into cable, like traditional cable distribution and cable companies, are getting into this space now, and then they're starting to add this into their at-home bundle. So it's almost as if a triple play is going to a quad play. I don't know if that's a term yet. If not, I should probably try to trademark it, where you're getting your phone, your internet, your TV, and now your mobile access, sometimes from the same provider.
I hope that answered your question. We have another question from Jim about Vitex fiber cable solutions availability.
Okay. So what was it? I'm sorry. What was the last part of that question? It broke up a little bit.
Availability and what solutions that Vitex has, not fiber.
Oh, yeah. So Vitex, I guess the question that would come up is, we primarily work in optical solutions, in connectivity, interconnect solutions. So things like transceivers, AOCs, DACs. And sometimes you might be thinking, well, that doesn't kind of play in with 10 gig to the house. You're not delivering anything to the house. So we do have some applications such as outdoor cable, but more importantly, as we get back into the core and we start working in data centers or in telecom installations, there's a need for, besides fiber, transceivers, right, that are going to be able to send this data over the optical link. And so that's like a very large strength that Vitex has. And you can definitely check out our website that's listed there, or email us, and we'll be happy to work with you on any type of solution to improve fiber to wherever you're going. And I see Robert post a question about the online videos that were presented. So my understanding was, if you registered on the Cable-Tec website, I think for the virtual one, you were able to see some of those specific sessions. There is a CableTec YouTube channel that you can also search up that they had like highlights like of the day. So that might be something interesting to check out as well. So I hope that answers your question, Robert. Okay, so let's see. Do we have any other ones?
I don't see any. Thanks everybody for joining. And like Craig mentioned, so we have, if you have any questions about a specific product, or if you just want to watch our previous webinars, it's a website, vitextech.com. And you can always contact us, info@vitextech.com. We are in New Jersey. So thanks everybody for joining again, and have a great rest of the week.
Bye, everybody.